Something feels different, doesn't it? Maybe you can't explain it. Your mind still plays the same doubts, your schedule looks the same, but under the surface there's this pulse. Like reality itself is leaning in closer. You catch yourself noticing patterns you used to overlook. The song that plays just as you were thinking about someone. The way a stranger's words echo a private thought you had hours before. The pull of déjà vu so sharp it makes you pause mid-step. And at the same time, you're restless. Ordinary routines feel paper thin. Conversations feel flat if they don't carry some spark. It's as if part of you is living in a dimension most people around you can't even sense. And you're wondering if you're going crazy or if something real is happening. Here's the secret most people never get told. What you're experiencing is not random. These aren't just coincidences or tricks of the mind. They're early tremors of a much bigger shift. Your consciousness is starting to wake up to its quantum nature, and when that happens, reality itself begins to rearrange. But it doesn't happen like Hollywood shows it. No flashing lights, no instant superpowers. Instead, it comes as subtle rewiring. You notice the invisible strings connecting thought, emotion, and outcome. You feel energy before words are spoken. You sense how your attention is shaping the field around you. This awakening can feel disorienting because the old rules stop working. What used to motivate you no longer fits. What used to scare you suddenly looks smaller. And what used to feel impossible now feels strangely within reach. So if you've been wondering whether you're imagining all this or if your mind is just playing tricks, stay with me. Because I'm going to show you how to recognize the unmistakable signs that your quantum consciousness is breaking through, and why it's the most important shift of your life. The easiest way to understand what's happening to you is to picture yourself as a radio. Not the old clunky kind with static dials, but a living transmitter and receiver. Every thought, every emotional state, every subtle shift in your body is like adjusting your frequency. And reality, the field of possibilities, is an ocean of stations, each one already broadcasting. Most people spend their lives on autopilot, locked onto one narrow station. They hear the same songs, the same commercials, the same voices of limitation repeating on loop. They believe that's all there is because they never touch the dial. But awakening quantum consciousness is when you suddenly realize the dial is in your hands. You can tune. Science has hinted at this for decades. The observer effect shows us that the very act of noticing changes what's measured. That means consciousness is not a passive watcher. It's an active participant in what unfolds. And when you shift not just your mind, but your whole embodied state, the signal you send into the field changes. The universe responds accordingly, not in some mystical sense, but in a way that feels mechanical once you grasp it. Think about the last time you walked into a room where the energy was tense. No one had to tell you, but your body felt it instantly. That's because you weren't just hearing words, you were tuning into frequency. Now imagine reversing that. Instead of being shaped by the room, you're shaping the room. That's what begins when quantum consciousness awakens. You stop unconsciously matching noise and start deliberately broadcasting clarity. And here's where it gets wild. When you truly tune, life rearranges with uncanny precision. Opportunities appear that match your new signal. Old habits fall away almost effortlessly. People either align with your new broadcast or fade from your station entirely. It's not force, it's resonance. But here's the trap. Most people hear this and think, so I just need to think harder, visualize more, push my mind until it bends reality. That's the old paradigm sneaking back in. Because tuning is not about mental strain, it's about coherence, about your whole system lining up with the frequency you choose. And once you understand why forcing doesn't work, you'll see the biggest myth about manifestation unravel right before your eyes. The biggest myth people carry is that manifestation is about thinking harder, as if repeating affirmations until your throat is sore will somehow trick the universe. But here's the flaw. Thought without embodiment is static. It's like spinning the dial of your radio, but never letting it lock into a station. All you hear is fuzz. Your mind might scream, I'm abundant, but if your chest is tight with fear and your stomach sinks every time you look at your bank account, the frequency being broadcast is still scarcity. Consciousness doesn't just speak in words, it speaks in signals, and the body is the amplifier. Let me ground this in something human. Picture this. You're waiting for a text from someone you like. Hours pass. You tell yourself, I'm chill, I'm magnetic, I don't need to chase. But every time your phone buzzes, your heart jumps and your thoughts spiral. The signal you're sending is not relaxed attraction, it's anxious attachment. That's why the text doesn't come when you're gripping for it. It often comes when you've actually forgotten about it, when you're laughing with friends, when your body has settled into a different broadcast, because the field is reading the sum of your vibration, not the script of your inner monologue. This is why awakening feels so strange at first. You realize the mismatch between what you've been saying with your mind and what you've been transmitting with your whole being. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Here's the liberating truth. You don't manifest by pounding your brain with mantras. You manifest by aligning the body, the breath, the heart with the station you want to live on. That's when thoughts stop being empty noise and start becoming coherent signals. So the real art isn't forcing the dial. It's becoming sensitive enough to notice when you're tuned in and when you're drifting into static. That sensitivity is the first superpower of quantum awakening. And once you start cultivating it, you'll see why the nervous system is the actual gateway, the regulator of your entire broadcast. Here's what most people miss. Your nervous system is the gatekeeper of your frequency. You can want abundance, love, or expansion all day long, but if your body is stuck in survival mode, your signal can't stabilize. It's like trying to tune your radio while someone keeps yanking the power cord. Think about it. When you're anxious, your breath shortens, your chest tightens, and your awareness narrows. Your system is broadcasting emergency. In that state, even if you repeat the most beautiful affirmations, the underlying broadcast is still static. The field doesn't receive clarity, it receives chaos. This is why people say they try everything, but nothing changes. It's not that they're broken. It's that their nervous system doesn't feel safe enough to hold the new frequency. Safety isn't a luxury. It's the foundation. When your body feels anchored, your signal sharpens, and reality has something steady to respond to. Let's make this practical. Try this with me right now. Close your eyes for a moment. Place one hand on your chest, the other on your lower belly. Inhale slowly through the nose, letting your lower hand rise first, then your upper hand. Hold for just a pause, then exhale gently through the mouth, longer than the inhale. Do that again and again. 3 slow breaths, with your awareness dropping lower into your body each time. Notice how your shoulders soften, how your jaw loosens. That shift, that's your frequency clearing. What you just did wasn't woo, it was coherence in action. Heart rate and breath begin syncing. Nervous system calms. Your body sends the signal. Safe. From there, your broadcast changes without effort. Opportunities that once bounced off your frantic energy now have a channel to reach you. This is why nervous system work is the hidden key to manifestation. Not because you need to be perfectly calm all the time, but because you need access to safety often enough for your new signal to lock in. The radio can't hold the new station if it keeps sliding back into static. And the moment you discover how to stabilize coherence, you'll see the difference between fleeting states and the deeper shift that actually rewires your reality. Calm moments are powerful. They shift your signal. But here's the catch. States are temporary. They flicker like stations fading in and out when you're driving at the edge of a broadcast range. One moment you're aligned, the next you're pulled back into old patterns. That's why the real shift of quantum awakening isn't about chasing peak states. It's about transforming identity. Identity is like the preset button on your inner radio. No matter how often you spin the dial, if you haven't reset that button, the system keeps snapping you back to the old station. You can feel blissed out after meditation, but if your core identity is still the struggler, your body will unconsciously drag you back into struggle. That's not sabotage. That's just your system doing what it believes keeps you safe. This is why awakening feels like a tug of war in the beginning. You taste the expanded station, but your old self-image keeps trying to reclaim the dial. And here's the paradox. It's not about killing the old identity. It's about gently updating it so that your nervous system recognizes the new station as home. Let's take a real-life picture. Imagine someone preparing for a job interview. If their state in the moment is confidence, they'll breathe steady, make eye contact, speak clearly. But if their deeper identity is still the one who never gets chosen, their signal leaks that insecurity beneath the words. The panel might not consciously know why, but they'll sense it. On the other hand, when identity shifts to the one who belongs here, the whole broadcast changes and opportunities respond. That's the hidden truth of manifestation. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you are. And what you are isn't defined by passing states. It's defined by the identity you embody day after day. This is why practices that only chase temporary highs never last. They give you glimpses, but not the foundation. Identity is the frequency that stabilizes your station. Once it updates, life stops yo-yoing and starts aligning. And here's where the quantum layer gets even more fascinating. Identity doesn't just affect your mood. It literally determines which timeline you lock onto, which version of reality you're tuning in. Think of every possible version of your life as a radio station already broadcasting. There's the station where you struggle endlessly. There's the one where things flow with ease. There's even one where your biggest dream is already reality. None of them are made when you get there. They're all already playing. What changes is which one you're tuned into. And here's the key. Your identity is the tuner. Not just your passing moods or the words you repeat, but the deep sense of self you carry moment to moment. If your identity is, I'm always behind, I can never catch up, your dial naturally locks onto timelines where delay and frustration repeat. If your identity is, I'm someone who creates with freedom, your dial finds timelines where opportunities, inspiration, and synchronicity are waiting. Let me ground this with a real-world scenario. Picture someone sitting in front of a blank page, trying to write, paint, or compose. Their state might fluctuate, one moment motivated, the next distracted. But if their deeper identity is, I'm blocked, I'm not really an artist, then even when they push through, their body transmits resistance. The station they tune into is one of friction, where ideas sputter. Now imagine the same person shifting identity. Instead of I'm blocked, they embody, I'm the kind of person ideas flow through. Notice the subtle difference. Suddenly the radio finds a new station. The field responds with little sparks, a sentence falling into place, a melody humming up from nowhere, a burst of energy that wasn't there before. It's not magic, it's tuning. This is why quantum awakening feels so powerful, because you realize you're not locked into one storyline. You start seeing parallel versions of your future shimmering in the background. And as your identity shifts, so does the timeline you inhabit. Here's the liberating part. You don't have to fight the old timeline. You don't need to tear down the static. You simply stop feeding that frequency, and your dial drifts toward the station that already holds what you want. And once you see that timelines aren't just abstract ideas but lived broadcasts, the next question becomes obvious. How do you rehearse the new signal so deeply that your system adopts it as your default station? Once you realize your identity is the tuner, the question becomes, how do you train your system to stay on the new station long enough for it to become home? That's where rehearsal comes in. Not mental rehearsal alone, but embodied whole system rehearsal. Let me give you a toolkit. The first tool is bridge statements. These aren't forced affirmations that feel fake. They're gentle upgrades your nervous system can believe. Instead of jumping from I'm broke to I'm a millionaire, you shift to I'm learning to feel safer around money. Or I'm opening to opportunities I couldn't see before. These statements ease your identity into a new frequency without triggering disbelief. The second tool is somatic anchors. Pick a physical gesture, posture, or breath pattern that embodies your chosen identity. If the station you're tuning to is confidence, maybe it's the way you roll your shoulders back, the way your chest opens. Each time you practice it, you're teaching your body, this is who we are now. Over time, the anchor becomes automatic. Your system switches stations the moment you use it. The third tool is micro-embodiment drills. Instead of waiting for big life events, you rehearse your identity in tiny moments. If your new station is, I am creative flow, practice it while washing dishes, while walking, while sending a text. Whisper the identity under your breath. Embody the posture. Breathe it in. This constant rehearsal makes the frequency familiar. And the fourth tool is what I call future casting sensations. Close your eyes and imagine living one day in the timeline where your new identity is fully integrated. Don't focus on the external details first. Focus on how it feels in your body. Is your chest lighter? Is your jaw more relaxed? Is your energy playful, grounded, expansive? Feel it until your nervous system can't tell the difference between rehearsal and reality, because at the quantum level, there is no difference. Put together, these tools form a simple protocol. Bridge the belief, anchor it somatically, practice it in micro moments, and rehearse the sensation of the future. Each round of practice sharpens your station until your old identity fades like a song that no longer plays in your region. And here's a thought I want to hear from you. Have you noticed the moment you stopped gripping? What you wanted finally showed up? Tell me your story in the comments. It might unlock someone else's leap. As your quantum consciousness awakens, the signal sharpens. But so do the obstacles. Think of them as interference on the radio. You're tuned in, but static crackles distorting the song. These interferences often show up as urgency, split signals, and over-control. The first obstacle is urgency. The anxious sense of, I need this now, or I'll never get it. Urgency collapses your frequency into lack. Imagine twisting the radio dial back and forth, desperate to find the right station. All you hear is noise. The way out is not pretending you don't care, but grounding into timelessness. When you slow your breath and remind yourself, it's already playing, I'm aligning with it, the static clears. The universe doesn't rush, it resonates. The second obstacle is split signals. You broadcast one identity in the morning, another in the afternoon. You wake up saying, I'm free, but by evening you're repeating, I'll always be stuck. The field receives mixed instructions like two stations bleeding over each other. The tactic here is consistency through micro-choices. Each time you catch the contradiction, you gently bring yourself back to the chosen frequency. Over time, your system learns which signal to stabilize, and the noise fades. The third obstacle is over-control. This is the trap of micromanaging every detail, trying to force outcomes into place. Over-control narrows your signal until it collapses into rigidity. Imagine pressing your ear to the radio speaker, straining to make out every word. You lose the music entirely. The antidote is widening your awareness. Practice zooming out, softening your body, reminding yourself, the song is bigger than me, I just need to receive. That relaxation allows the frequency to carry itself. These three obstacles are not failures. They're part of the learning curve of tuning. Each time you notice one, it's proof you're awakening, because you couldn't even perceive the interference before. Now you're sensitive enough to hear the static, which means you're also capable of clearing it. And once you begin weaving these corrections into daily life, you'll see the real integration. Not just in meditation, not just in rituals, but in the ordinary rhythms of walking, eating, and conversation. Quantum awakening isn't meant to stay locked inside meditation rooms or vision boards. Its power shows when it seeps into the ordinary, the spaces where most people fall back asleep. That's where you truly know the signal has stabilized, when daily life itself becomes rehearsal. Think about walking. Most people walk lost in thought, their body tight, shoulders hunched. They're unconsciously broadcasting a signal of contraction. But what if you used walking as practice? Each step, you breathe deeper. Let your chest open. Feel the ground supporting you. Suddenly your body is transmitting, I belong here. I move with ease. The station changes not because you forced a thought, but because you tuned your entire rhythm. Eating is another hidden portal. So many eat in a rush, scrolling on their phone, barely tasting. That signal is noise. The body feels ignored, unsafe. Instead, imagine turning eating into coherence. You slow down, feel gratitude for the food, notice the textures. Your body reads the signal. Safety, presence, receiving. That's the same frequency abundance runs on. Even conversations become part of the broadcast. Instead of bracing for judgment or rushing to fill silence, you practice coherence. You breathe before you answer. You listen not just with your ears, but with your whole field. The person across from you feels it, even if they don't know why. Because you're not just speaking words, you're transmitting frequency. These micro moments are not small. They're the actual training ground. They're how the new identity embeds until it no longer feels like practice. It just feels like you. The more ordinary the moment, the more powerful the tuning. And here's the secret you'll start to notice. When your daily life becomes coherent, Extraordinary things happen without you chasing them. Invitations, synchronicities, effortless connections start weaving into your routine. You'll realize the station of expansion isn't somewhere far away. It's already here, and you've been learning to live on it. But this isn't the end. This is only the first layer of integration, because once daily life stabilizes, the field starts inviting you into expansion at greater scales, in love, in health, in creativity, in purpose. Once your daily rhythm holds coherence, the field starts expanding the invitation. It's not just about feeling calmer or noticing coincidences anymore. It begins shaping how you love, how you create, how your body heals, and how you step into purpose. The radio signal grows louder, and entire domains of life start aligning. Take relationships. When you tune to a frequency of safety and self-worth, the people who resonate with that signal feel drawn in. Conversations deepen, trust builds faster, conflicts resolve with more grace. Those who broadcast fear or manipulation may simply drift out of your orbit. It's not rejection, it's resonance sorting itself out. Creativity shifts too. Where you once battled with procrastination or doubt, ideas flow more freely. It feels less like thinking something up and more like catching a broadcast already playing. Inspiration doesn't come from squeezing harder. It lands because your dial is clear enough to receive it. Health follows the same principle. When the nervous system anchors coherence, the body stops burning energy on survival mode. Digestion, sleep, and recovery improve. Even physical pain can soften when the signal changes, because your body is no longer broadcasting alarm but regulation. Healing frequencies can finally be heard. And then there's purpose. This is where awakening feels like stepping onto a stage you didn't know was waiting. You sense a pull, not to prove yourself, not to scramble for validation, but to express what feels inevitable. Purpose is not something you manufacture. It's the station that plays when your identity lines up with your deepest resonance. Here's a micro scenario that shows it in action. Imagine walking into a social gathering where you used to shrink. Before, your body's signal said, "I don't belong, I'm invisible." The room reflected it back. But now, after integrating coherence, you walk in broadcasting ease. You don't force it. Your posture, your breath, your energy do the talking. Suddenly people approach you, conversations flow, laughter comes easily. The external shift looks magical, but it was always just tuning. This is the beauty of expansion. You realize quantum awakening isn't only for special moments. It redesigns how you exist in every domain. And when that truth sinks in, a deeper question emerges. One that takes you beyond personal benefit and into the heart of the existential shift itself. Up until now, we've been talking about tuning as if it's mainly about personal benefit. Better relationships, clearer creativity, smoother health. And yes, those are real gifts. But the deeper layer of quantum awakening isn't about making life more comfortable. It's about realizing you're not the one writing the song, you're part of the orchestra. The radio metaphor holds here in a surprising way. You're not just choosing which station to listen to, you're also a transmitter contributing to the broadcast. Every coherent signal you stabilize strengthens that frequency in the collective field. Your awakening ripples outward, even to people who don't consciously know what's happening. This is why surrender is such a paradox. On the surface, it looks like weakness, letting go of control, softening the grip. But at the quantum level, surrender is what allows your personal dial to sync with the larger broadcast of life itself. The song of intelligence that's always playing. When you stop jamming the signal with over-control, you hear it clearly, and reality starts moving with you instead of against you. Think about those moments when you felt guided in ways you couldn't explain. Maybe you took a different route home and avoided an accident. Maybe a book fell off a shelf at just the right time. Maybe someone appeared in your life with exactly the words you needed to hear. That's not randomness. That's resonance with the larger field. And here's the humbling part. Awakening shows you that your mind is not the master architect. It's a collaborator. The deeper intelligence that spins galaxies is the same one animating your breath, guiding synchronicities, and shaping timelines. When you align with that current, effort drops away, and life starts unfolding in ways your ego could never have strategized. But this isn't passive. It's not sitting back waiting for miracles. It's active surrender, broadcasting coherence, embodying your chosen identity, and then releasing the pressure to control every note. You become a clear channel, and the larger intelligence does the weaving. This is why quantum awakening feels existential. It's not just about changing your life. It's about realizing you are life, expressing itself through this body, this moment, this frequency. And when that lands, the final step becomes clear. How to live as a conscious transmitter every day until the mirror of reality reflects back the deepest song you've always carried. So here you are, listening more closely than you ever have before. The static of the old identity is fading, and the song of your quantum consciousness is beginning to play through you, steady and unmistakable. Maybe you still wobble between stations sometimes. That's normal. Awakening is not about perfect clarity every second. It's about learning how to retune, again and again, until the new frequency becomes home. Look back at the journey you've just taken. You've felt the tremors of synchronicity, the subtle rewiring of attention shaping reality. You've seen how thought without embodiment is just noise, how the nervous system gates the broadcast, how identity is the real preset button, and how timelines shimmer like parallel stations waiting for your signal. You've practiced tools to anchor coherence, faced the static of urgency and over-control, and discovered how daily life itself becomes rehearsal. And then you stepped into something bigger, the knowing that you're not just tuning for yourself. You're part of the orchestra of life, amplifying a frequency that ripples into the collective field. Every breath of coherence, every choice to embody safety, every identity shift is not just personal growth, it's cosmic contribution. So the invitation now is simple. Live as a conscious broadcaster. Treat your body like the antenna it is. Walk, eat, create, and connect as if every moment is part of the transmission. When you slip back into static, don't shame yourself. Just retune. The station hasn't gone anywhere. It's still playing, waiting for you to align. Because the truth is, you've already heard the music. That's why you're here. You wouldn't be listening to these words if some part of you wasn't already tuned. The only question now is how fully you'll let it play through you. So carry this with you. The next time life feels heavy, remember, you don't need to invent a new song. You only need to tune to the one that's been playing all along.